What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you? What are you? What are you doing? We got us awesome podcast here.
Just for kicks.
What are you doing? We got us awesome podcast here.
And because I had both windows open,
What are you doing? We got us awesome podcast here.
oops, got a little trigger happy with the pause button. So sorry about that. Welcome to Rethinking Revelations End Times Debate. I'm your host, Travis Finley. And if you are new to this channel or you have not yet subscribed, shame on you if you haven't, please do so. Subscribe. Please do so and hit the bell notice to keep up to date with the End Times Debate. I will be hosting a live debate as often as I can, and I welcome your participation. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the viewing audience and provides for a more diverse panel. There is a link available by email for you if you want to join the discussion of your view of the end of the world. Just look in the description box below in the YouTube page. Or if you want to, you can send me a note in the chat, and then we can follow up that way. If you would like to join the fray, as I said, simply email traviscanmanage@gmail.com. Mute. Listen to me, please. If you're going to join the channel, I just got a text. If you are going to join the panel, please mute the page you are currently listening to. Otherwise, it's going to be feedback galore. And then, after you've silenced your phone, like they tell you to do in the movies, silence the web page or the silence the page you are currently listening to. Click the speaker button and silence the page, and then click the provided link. If you do join the panel, please maintain civility. Please maintain civility and the fruits of the Spirit. Otherwise, you will be removed. You will be. And if you are removed, you have to wait till the next time we have a stream so that you can share your views on the end of the ages. Thanks for listening, and I hope to hear from you on Rethinking Revelations live stream End Times Debate. In the meantime, until we get people on the panel,
Come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free from our fears and sins, release us. Let us find our rest in thee.
just strength and consolation. Hope of all the earth, thou art dear desire of every nation, joy of every longing heart.
Come thou long awaited Emmanuel, born thy people to deliver, born a child and a king, born to reign in us forever. Now thy gracious kingdom bring,
And by thy own eternal Spirit, rule in all our hearts alone. By thy own sufficient merit, raise us to thy glorious throne.
come thou Oh, come, all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Come ye, oh, come ye to Bethlehem.
All right, I see somebody might be out there. If you're watching and stop by, thanks for doing so. Just pop into the chat, say hi so I can see who you are and give you a shout out. And then if you're interested in joining the panel, let me know. And you're not there anymore. Thanks. Bye.
Oh, come, let us adore. Oh, come, let us adore Him. Oh, come, let us adore Him, Christ, my Lord. Oh, come. Oh, come. Oh, come. Oh, come, let us. Oh, come, let us. Oh, come, let us adore Him, Christ, my Lord.
What child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleep? Whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds walk.
All right, I see someone might have joined to see what was going on here at Rethink Your Revelation. If you're out there, just say hi in the chat. That way I can see who you are and say hello. And if you're interested in joining the panel for a discussion, just let me know and I'll send you the link. You're gone again. What the heck? I don't think there's a... I think there's no... Hello, hello, hello. All right, so I'm seeing... I am seeing... I can see the feedback on my voice, so it looks like there's voice audio going out, so we'll just see what's up here.
So bring Him incense, gold, and myrrh. Come, peasant king.
Man, this thing is taking forever to load. Sheesh.
King of kings, salvation brings. Let loving hearts enthrone Him. This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring Him now, the babe, the Son of Mary.
All right, so I'm just gonna start off with some thoughts that I've got down on. Hey, Flat Earth Data, how you doing? Good to see you. I will try to send you the link momentarily if you're interested in joining the debate for the end times. And let me see how I can do that. In the meantime, I'll keep going with the music. One of my favorite Christian artists, Jeremy Casella. Jeremy Casella. I'm doing well, thanks. I'm doing well. Can you hear me okay? Doing a sound check. Can you hear me? Just give me a yes out there. All right, so what I got to do is I've got to go to my email so I can mail you an invite. So just give me a second to get around. I'm doing this all from my hotspot on my phone, so there's probably a little bit of a lag with my shenanigans. Some kind of illusion. I thought I was out of my mind. This light shone around me. It ripped through the dark like a knife. Alright, just like a knife. I guess I don't suppose I'm going to get trolled very often and very soon. So there you go. It's right there. How about that? Boom, coming right at you. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is just start off with a reading on some of my thoughts on biblical interpretation, and that might salt the oats, so to speak, for us to have a discussion. One of the things that I've thought about is that you have to imagine that you're out on the open sea as a mariner. And if you are out on the sea as a mariner without proper bearing, you will forever be adrift, being borne hither and thither upon uncertainty, upon the currents of the ocean, upon the winds that blow. So too the biblical navigator. The biblical navigator must have more information prior to setting course in his interpretive exercise. Otherwise, he will never reach land, as it were. The seafarer with an uneducated background is lost at sea. But the one with more information is in a better position to offer insights into his particular path. His crew might be curious. They might well inquire as to why he has chosen one route over another when, according to their untrained senses, it might seem that the best pathway lies straight ahead. But he knows more than his moderate crew, despite their insatiable desire to be like their esteemed captain. The desired destination of quote-unquote land in this metaphor, the desired destination of quote-unquote land in the allegory that I've just given you is interpreting Genesis 1. That's what we're talking about, right? Interpreting Genesis 1 correctly is dependent upon having more information to work with in order to navigate the chaotic waters of the deep, over which darkness reigns until the light dawns. It will not do simply to climb into one's dinghy and start paddling out into the open waters without the proper equipment. And yet, this is precisely what happens when readers naively open their Bibles to the first page and plunge in. All right. Taking a little pause just to go back to the page here. And I guess what I'm going to try to do is maybe shrink this page down. Then I can't see the chat. Oh, there it is. I can see the chat there. All right, I can see the chat there. What I'm going to try to do is then bring this maybe into another window. Open this into another window. There we go. I am getting tricky. Tricky. I got 4 watching. 4. Come on now, people. You're out there. Let's say hello. Hello. What? Ho. So if you're out there, just say hi so I can see who you are. I want to say hi to you. Welcome to Rethinking Revelations End Times Debate. I'm your host, Travis Finley, if you're not familiar with who I am. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, please do so. Please hit that subscription. Please hit that bell notification so that you can be kept up to date with all things Rethinking Revelation and End Times Debate. And as well, please share the show, because sharing the show increases the viewing audience and offers us a more diverse panel. And if you would like to join the show, please just let me know either in the chat or by email. There is an email in the description box for you to send an email to, and then I can get you a link so that you can join the panel to discuss your view on the end of the age. If you do join, please maintain civility and deference for others. Otherwise, you will be removed. And if you are, you're going to have to wait till the next stream to share your views on the end of the age. So thanks so much for showing up and listening. And I hope to hear from you. Okay, there's 5 out there. Can you guys hear me? I would love to see who's out there and say hello to you. So what I did earlier was just do a little bit of a reading of an essay that I wrote on biblical interpretation. So here we're going to go until I get any interaction from you guys out there in live streamland. It is the supposition of me, your illustrious host. It is my supposition that indeed we do need more to interpret correctly the story of Genesis 1. It will not do simply to argue as the fundamentalists do when they say, if the plain sense makes the most sense, seek no other sense, unless it leads you into nonsense. As pithy and seemingly astute as that adage might appear, it is far from valid and it is extremely naive. That approach of just simply taking the Bible at face value, that approach argues that the story found in Genesis 1 is indeed scientific. That is, the story in Genesis 1 must necessarily be oriented in such a way as to teach the reader where and how all things came into being. Concordism, right? Concordism, that is, that all things that are in concord, that are at peace, that are tranquil, that are placid, so that Genesis 1 and science are at peace with one another. That's concordism. Concordism, therefore, asserts that the Bible and science are in accord with one another, despite the cognitive dissonance recognized when modern science is held in conjunction with Genesis 1. As an example, modern science exposes the scientific impossibility of any biological life being sustained apart from the existence of the sun, right? Okay, so look at there. If the sun did not exist, life as we know it would not exist. So modern science exposes the scientific impossibility that any biological life could be sustained without the presence of the sun. I will try to send you that email. Give me 1 second. Pause on my pontifications, as I try to send Flat Earth Data the invite. La di da. Here we go.
Father's love begotten, ere the world began to be.
He is Alpha and Omega.
He the source, the ending, He of the things that are, that have been, and that future years shall see evermore. And
All right. I don't know that I have your email address. I can't find it. Hold on. Please hold. Oh, okay.
Lofty heights of Emmanuel, angel hosts His praises sing. Clouds dominions bow
Here we come. Coming at you. There it is.
and extol our God and King.
All right, going back now to my pontifications. 3. How did I lose 2? I just gained somebody. Hello. We've got people out in the audience. Hello, hello, hello. What? I'm your host, Travis Finley, on Rethinking Revelations End Times Debate. If you are interested in joining the panel, please let me know. Say hello. Jump in the chat. Say hello so I can see who's out there. 3 are watching. That's probably just 2 because I think I'm counted as one of those.
Yo.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
What?
What's going on?
Not too much, man. What are you up to?
I am chilling with the family.
I thought you said you were driving.
Nope, chilling with the family. About to head on vacation tomorrow morning.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought it said I'm on my way home, but it says I am on my phone. That's like misheard lyrics. I'm on my way home. I'm on my phone.
You know how many bands talk about flat Earth, or somehow allude to flat Earth? I swear to God, Boston does it. Eurythmics did it. I mean, have you ever seen Eurythmics video?
Sweet dreams are made of this.
Yeah, love it. It's who am I? I've been drinking a little bit of Bailey's here too, so it's December 24th. So
I'm enjoying Fiore Rosina. It's a grape wine with natural chocolate flavor. And
nice.
it's nice. I went to my local liquor store, walked in, they had a discount basket, and I saw it. It looked kind of old school, and I'm like, I'm going to try that. It's very nice. Right
on. Yeah, I sort of was surprised with the amount of alcohol I was given for present around the holiday season. I have a new job, and I was graciously supplied with. Normally, I don't drink. I'm not much of a drinker. I partake more in the flower side of life, and so yeah, I got into the Baileys earlier this afternoon, and
I see what you did with that little flower metaphor there.
Hey man, I did a little video today. I did some small scaling measurements with mountains and took the perspective of Mount St. Helens.
Oh, okay.
Looking outward to Rainier and Mount Adams and Mount Hood and Mount Jefferson. And so I scaled it down to centimeters. And it's quite interesting how the perspective matches reality. Like I actually measured, like if the mountain was 3.9 kilometers, I turned it into centimeters. So it would be like 3.9 centimeters tall. And then I put my camera on panoramic settings and measured it out on the floor and laid it out based on a relative measurement scaling calculation, which is like 1 centimeter is equal to 1 kilometer, right? Let's say.
Uh-huh.
And it's quite interesting how it matched reality. So I had fun doing that today. And
Did you publish that?
yeah, I did. And check it out. Also, today I came across this thing called black goo. And it was a scientist talking about how they came across this liquid crystal material. And it blows your mind, dude, because it's real as shit. And they talk about this particular liquid crystal having intelligent properties to where if they laid 2 sections of it apart 5 meters, it would actually sit up and communicate to each other and try to find a way to connect, like move together, like to combine each self. And it's called black goo. Check it out. They refer to it as Eastern mysticism and black magic, but they present it as reality. Blew my mind. I also posted that today. So yeah. Hello.
That sounds like total science fiction, dude.
It's absolutely science fiction, but guess what? When you see the video and you see the evidence that they present, it's my mind was blown because they are showing this in reality. They're showing this actual liquid crystal stuff, and they're telling you that it actually can move. And if you look at it, it can be aware that it's being watched and literally jump at your face. No word of a lie, dude. And they show it. So check it out. I mean, I don't know what to think of it. I just discovered it. It's called black goo. And they consider it to be demonic in nature. They did consider it to be where the old tribes and the old satanic cults from past, when they did children sacrifices, they would do it to suck the demon out of the stone. So they found a way to get this black goo. Check it out. It's real science, man. It's 3 elements. It's mythology, scientific evidence, and experimentation. Or I can't remember the third one actually, but I came across it today doing some research, and there is no reason for me to see that it's being played as a hoax the way it's presented. It's presented very scientifically, and it's gonna blow your mind, man. They're coming out full-fledged with to me what seems to be empirical evidence of demonic things.
All right, so now, I mean, for some reason I just was like, I went on my channel and I did a search for you, but you've got the Mona Lisa as your icon. What the heck?
No, I don't have that. It's the Raylan criteria is my Mona Lisa.
Yeah, but I just typed in flat Earth data.
No, it's not me. Then you got the wrong one. My thing is the Rayleigh criterion, which is the
Right.
diffraction of light and how it's seen at a very thin angle. So our eye, the reason why we see diffraction and we see refraction is based on light and how when the angle gets so small, basically it cuts off it turns into the wave particle into nothing. You can't see anything. It cuts it off. So you can't see what's behind or around it, but
this is so weird. Okay, so I found black goo, demons, Eastern religions, and chemtrails. Oh my, is that it?
yeah.
Yeah, but when I click on the flat Earth data and it says that you've got 116 subscriptions, the icon right next to it is the Mona Lisa, dude. I'm just telling you.
That's weird because I don't have anything to do with that. I don't have anything in my site that's like that. I don't put that any on.
You got legendary super looming perspective making a comment. So I'm guessing that's all legit, you know what I mean? But when I click on your name, flat Earth data, like I'm going to click it on, I should screen share so you can see it. I'm going to screen share so you can see what I'm talking about. Here we come. Sharing.
Well, I don't know what that is. I don't know why that would imply anything, but I don't know. It should be the Rayleigh criteria. Right. It should be the perspective, the analytical scientific study of our eyes. So
see my screen?
It just hold on. hold on. When I press play there, I can see my icon is there. My icon.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
so touch my icon at the bottom right.
I don't know how you do that on the phone. I don't know if you can do that on the phone. Can you do that on the phone?
I think so. If you're in the Hangouts, if you're in the Hangouts, you can. If you're just looking at the YouTube stream, you won't be able to. You have to be
Okay,
in the Hangout.
Hangouts. Okay, hold on. Okay, here I'm in the Hangout now. It's on the ongoing call. Okay, here we go. Okay, now I can see it. Cool.
All right, so I'm gonna jump over. So there you go. Right, so you got my screen there, all white.
What the fuck is
You-
that? That's not my picture, dude. That's not. I didn't put that there. That is.
I'm just telling you, man. Look, so I'm clicking on your clicking on your black goo demons Easter. Oh, there you go. Now it's switched over. Now it's got the regular one. Okay, that's really
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. That was weird, dude. I didn't put that up there. There you go. That's normal. That's what I have of the Raelian criteria, which basically is the people need to understand that our eye has been studied, and this is proof that our eye has limitations to do to refraction, diffraction plus angular size. So this Raelian criteria is pretty important on letting people know that our eye is an actual spherical lens, and that the reason why we see things is because our eye is a spherical lens. So
Amazing stuff, man. That just is that I don't even know. I would love to go back 20, 30 years knowing what I know now and sit in a classroom.
I'll tell you, I'll tell you, man. I'm telling you that book that I keep talking about. It give you an example of the enthusiasm they had towards the sciences of trying to they had such a passion to figure out God's world that they threw all these scientific assumptions at everything. And how I came to understand, at least that understanding myself, or my opinion of that, is from that writer from the early late 1800s. He lived very long, man, almost like 1912, and his daughters ended up finishing some of his work. But that writer talking about understanding, like scientifically explaining mosaic scientifically explained. So it's explaining the biblical world scientifically. And I haven't to this day seen somebody as honest in their approach. Now, whether you consider that to be honest or metaphysical or philosophized science, it's very interesting material. And I highly recommend anybody kind of reading it to understand the birth and the creation of this fantasy, of what it is. It's because it's really just a fantasy of the unknown, and we don't want the absolute. We need relative, and money, e-commerce needs relative. Absolute doesn't work very well for e-commerce unless it's death and taxes. That's my rant. Sorry, man. I ranted there for a bit.
That's all right, man. We're just hanging out, just chatting. That's cool. So, are you West Canada, East Canada? Where are you at?
Oh, I'm on the West Coast. I've got we've got dispensaries left, right, and center here. Marijuana's been legal for like the last 10 years at least.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how you jumped to that. How did you leap there? I asked where you live, and you went straight to marijuana.
Oh, the West Coast. People are synonymous. People are synonymous with that, with the West Coast. I think at the end of the day, at least that's my thing. So, sort of just predestined us there based on the West Coast. East Coast is not really popular for that, right? It's more hashish on the east.
All right.
No, you don't know what I mean.
I didn't hear you say.
There's the demographic difference between. You don't think, like, okay, for instance, I'll give you an analogy. So in like the 1300s, Chinese emperor, the name slips me at the moment, but he would outlaw and legalize certain types of phrases musically. So he'd have like 3 or 4 cities, and each city would have a particular edict. And that edict would say, hey, listen, you're only allowed to play major chords here. and you're only allowed to play minor chords there. And the purpose was to study the dissonance and, you know, harmony within the culture based on musical phrases. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Anyway, I'm probably going off track and losing my point.
That's okay.
But my point was demographically, we have certain sections of the United States, Canada, that have, you know, certain flavors to their choice of sin. Maybe that's what I'm saying. You know, some towns are more consumption of alcohol. Some towns are more consumption of tobacco. Some more towns are consumption of methamphetamine. Some more, you know what I mean?
I suppose so. Yeah. Yep.
So do you think based on that approach, there's going to be certain demographics that are highly aware or highly awake? Like, for instance, the flat earth trend. Where the situated flat earth assembly halls, where they've had their meetings. Ideally, if you're a business guy and you're going to run a business, you're going to pick a hall that's going to generate the most money, right?
Yeah.
So if you ever listen to music have what's called trackers, and basically you pay somebody to track your tune that's been played over the radio station, let's say over the world, right? You pay a tracking agency that tracks your tune. So when you're as a businessman, you want to send assembly halls, you want to see where traffic is generated the most. You want to see where the most interest lies, right?
Yep. Keep going.
So do you think that's what's happening now? I mean, ideally, we're kind of being redirected. Like, I was researching Mark Sargent and Patrick. Patricia Steers.
Wow.
That was too funny. No,
are you channeling Pete Shea or what?
I have no idea. I just started on ranting. It's the Baileys. Blame it on the alcohol. Blame it on the spirits. But at the end of the day, I was researching their names and the origins of their names. And because at the end of the day, I'm thinking, okay, so this has to be demographic. It has to be controlled. It has to be rolled out to some sort of platform. What really got me is a lot of the claims when we listen to debates are scientific rebuttals, or rebuking with scientific experiment, or rebuking the claims with some sort of at least legitimate empirical proof, right? It's not just, hey, well, we believe it's this because there's no real evidence. You know, asserting claims without representation of those claims is sort of a red herring. You know what I mean? It's kind of like sort of a sympathy vote. So I started researching the names. I'm off on a tangent now, but it's quite interesting what their names mean, and according to how it's rolled out during time duration. See, Patrick, fuck, Jesus, look at that.
Wow. I don't even know what to do with that. How can you keep...
I have no idea, dude, because I was researching the name Patricia. Fuck, see, there you go. Researching the name Patricia, and the origin roots are Patrick. And it's a very common name, you know? So ideally, a lot of, like, I worked on the road with a hypnotist, right? So I learned verbatim speeches that are rooted in mind control and power of suggestion.
Were you a roadie or what?
Well, that's the best part. I was a stagehand. Also, I ran the sound and lights. Plus, I'd be part of the performance. Plus, I would have to know his speech in and out because I would have to cue it with sound. So I got to know the speech verbatim. And I'll tell you this much: I went through all the interior of BC traveling with this hypnotist, and the speech is the same. What happens is that people literally give themselves over just because one of two things. A, there's an imaginary subconscious line. This is straight from the hypnotist's mind, right? This is what he told me. He says there's a line that everybody crosses subconsciously, and they do it willingly, and they do it constantly all the time. So when I come to perform, there's two things that happens. There's the drunk person that can't be hypnotized and the person that can be. So a lot of people get drunk and they go to the hypnotist show and they just show up and the part of the stage is them trying to be hypnotized and they can't because they're too drunk. That's part of the entertainment. The second side is the actual people that go there that want to be hypnotized, that cross that subconscious line, because as soon as they enter the stage, their mind is given over to him immediately. So it's very interesting how this rolls out, even in the flat earth community. Because I was thinking shills today, right? I was thinking about undercover agents, and I remember a lot of the detailed responses I used to get from a lot of arguments I get into people online, right? And I would get really, really detailed explanations. But yet, with the detailed explanations, there still wouldn't be any empirical proofs. It would be just a lot of explanations to kind of appease the natural question of why or how. Anyway, I'm kind of ranting. I'm drinking water now, trying to sober up here.
You're trying to sober up by drinking wine?
No, but well, no, drinking a little water.
Oh,
I mean,
water.
I might.
Water.
Yeah, I know. Sorry to disappoint. But sorry to disappoint.
Okay. Okay. That's a new one for me.
But anyway, yeah. Have you ever looked into it? It's quite interesting, the meaning of names and the occult, and how they can't resist not exposing themselves at some point in the language that they use, right? So now that's relative. I saw a cool article today that made me think of this conversation last night, because I think we left off on the age of Moses, and we left off on the criteria of how you come to base the criteria on if it was biblical days. And we were sitting down and breaking bread together, and we were having a conversation. And in the Bible, it said 6 days. It had mentioned that the creation would have not existed in 6 days in our minds back then. I think that's where we left the last conversation off.
Okay.
I don't know if that's correct or not, but that's what I remember.
It's close enough. Yeah, sure.
I just found that very interesting.
Say it again, what you found interesting.
I found the fact that, well, if it was biblical days, if we were sitting in, well, what would be technically biblical days then? The days of Jesus. Obviously, what is that called? Is that CE? What is that called? You've got AD, CE, and BC, right?
Yeah, well, the CE and the BCE is the liberal watering down of, trying to get rid of Christ being the center point of history. So before Common Era, BC, AD, yeah, whatever.
Well,
hey,
if you were sitting,
since we're at a kind of like a pause, I got 4 people watching, so I'm going to say hi to the Watchman. The Watchman's going to make some comments. Glad you're visiting. Thanks for being here. If you're out there watching, just say hi so I can see who you are, and if I recognize you or whatnot, then we can touch base that way. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe and hit the bell notifications to keep up to date with what we're doing here with Rethinking Revelation in these live streams. Thanks for showing up. All right, so going back to... Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just as a head note too, if you're having issues with your phone, the way that I found it works on the phone is if you email the link to me and I actually open the link through the email. It doesn't seem to work on the chat link or whatever, and doesn't seem to work on the homepage of YouTube. For every time I click the link on YouTube, it sends me to the app and then asks me to open the app, and it doesn't work. But your email worked fine. I was able to join the Hangout on my phone via the email.
Okay, well, if you want to try the Hangout next time anyway, if you copy the link and put it into your browser, it'll work that way.
I tried copying, like I tried holding my finger down to paste it and copy and paste it. It doesn't seem to work.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, we got it working with the email, so we're good to go.
Just if anybody has any issues, I don't know if they have issues with the copy and paste, but I have. So emails seem to work for me.
And what phone do you have?
Pixel 2,
Okay, so you got Android.
Pixel 2 XL,
Okay.
and yeah. I got rid of my Apple phone actually, and one reason why I got rid of my Apple phone, I just started looking around, and I noticed I was like, well, you know what? A lot of people have Apple phone, and I started researching more about hacking and about security. And anybody, I think, who wants to make money in this market, down market, should look at BlackBerry. They're very inexpensive right now in the stock market, and they just bought up a $1.4 billion security company, and they're profitable, and they're sitting around $9 a share. So take a look at that company. But I got rid of my Apple because I think it's going to be the number one hacked phone shortly.
Wait, who's that?
What's that?
I'm interested in taking a chance. So give me your dirt. Do it again. This is Pixel 2?
Give you dirt on.
What you just said. Say it again.
Say what again? What about what?
Your $9 a share. Weren't you just talking about your phone?
So BlackBerry and security. So I believe out from my research right now, 2000. Okay, look, economy is going to be running thin. They got to come up with new ideas, new ways to make money. Well, hacking has been testing for the last umpteen years, and it's successful in its own right. But they have to control it, right? So the idea is they're going to do quantum computing, quantum hacking in 2019. So BlackBerry preparing for it. BlackBerry's preempting quantum computer hacking in the future. So what BlackBerry just did recently was purchase a $1.4 billion company called Clancy. I think it's called Clancy. I could be incorrect with the name, but anyway, it's a very good transaction. Now, BlackBerry just was an all-time high at $18 a share about 3-4 months ago. It's sitting at around $9, $10 a share. So it's an easy double. Okay. It's also profitable, and it's, it was at one point worth $150 a share. So if anybody wants to make money, I invest in the stock market. I make money that way on the side. I've been doing it for, 8 years, and I study the market very well, and I'm semi-successful doing it. So I can help people out in that area. And you can also help people out there by posting links on some survival gear and getting people interested in preparing for, their health, especially when they roll out 5G. I don't know if you're interested in talking about that, about end times, about a doctor. It's a lot of times when I come up with ideas, and I think I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but there's a doctor who did a study.
I don't want to get distracted. I want to bring you back real quick. Okay, so if I'm going to look into this stock that you were just talking about, is it BlackBerry or is it the company that BlackBerry bought?
It's BlackBerry.
Okay.
100% BlackBerry. Take a look at it. They just purchased a large security company for $1.4 billion. BlackBerry's profitable, and they're very inexpensive, and they're undervalued right now. So hopefully you do well.
All right, yeah, I'll check it out. What is there a particular place? Because I have never looked into the stock. So if I were to get off this stream right now and look into it, where would I go?
Well, you have a bank. You'd go to your bank and you'd say, "Hey, bank, I want to open a direct investing account." And you'd go in there and you set up an account. You'd have an advisor, whoever, and you would have a minimum balance to start trading, which is usually $1,000.
Okay.
And then per trade is anywhere from $5 to $10 per trade. So in other words, if you want to buy a security, which is a stock, it's going to cost you $5 to $10. If you want to sell a stock or security, it's going to cost you $5 or $10. Now, United States laws are a little different when it comes to capital gains taxes. I believe you're taxed 45% no matter what. So if you make 50 grand, you owe 25. So just keep in mind that that's the rule. So, but I think one of the ways to reduce the tax burden is to apply to your 401k, which is to pay for some of your retirement out of their taxes. So if you put money towards your retirement out of those capital gains, you pay less tax as well. But I could be wrong. I'm not 100% certain with U.S. capital laws and taxes. I know in Canada is a little different. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to think about that. So I never looked into investments before, and Every once in a while, I think about it, but I just have absolutely no knowledge of it.
Well, if you're serious about three avenues, which is your high risk part of your life, your medium risk part of your life, and your low risk part of your life, we all have those three areas personally. I think to some degree, some are always relative to what those are, obviously, but there is a lot of ways for people with low income to go to a bank, open a direct investing account, and buy high risk stocks in what's called an emerging market. Now, what's really good about United States is you do have the marijuana market that will be emerging full-fledged soon. It's already started with the hemp. They just signed the Farm Bill. Donald Trump just signed the Farm Bill, I think, 2 days ago. So hemp, if you're not a marijuana supporter, hemp is a different product. Hemp is, paper, textile, building. The list goes on with that, right? So there's also that. But the thing is that they're all new. It's the first thing ever. And I'll give you an example of a company that started out pretty shady. And it was called Monster Energy Drink. It was like 70 cents a share. And now it's sitting at $70 a share, or it was anyway during this story. So you can see that the market is pretty huge if you're willing to take a risk and looking at a company and researching it and look at the CEOs and taking the time to understand financials. You don't have to understand what they do. You just have to understand what no debt looks like, or low debt, or what good debt looks like, and what low share count looks like, and what pump and dumps look like. And the thing is that a lot of people have that ability. They just don't have anybody pushing them to, check it out. So I hope to push you to check it out. It'd be good for you. You'll learn a little bit, unless you already know a little, you have different areas of financial intelligence.
No, man. That's like not an area that I ever really thought about. So, but
I always thought about it as a kid. I always did. I don't know why. I remember before the cell phones and before the internet and computer, I'd always grab the paper and I would look at a stock, and I'd memorize the ticker, and then I'd come back to it like 3 months, 4 months later, and look at the paper and see what the stock was doing. It was up or it was down. And I mean, I was a young kid. I think I learned at a young age that operating on the same premise that your neighbor did is good for you. You know what I mean? In other words, you go to school, you get the diploma, you get the job, you know what I mean? It seemed like everybody down the street kind of did the same path, and it all worked out for them. I never took that path. I mean, I had somewhat of a, I just didn't believe it. I didn't see it happening. So I felt more fear of not achieving that dream. So I think it made me search for other alternative income. Right. And basically, essentially, it's taking risks and learning that, your health is really important, because while you're healthy, you can actually take those risks. It's when you're unhealthy, you can't. So everybody's fearful of taking those risks while they're healthy, when realizing that's when you do take the risks, because you can recover when you're healthy. You can't when you're unhealthy. So you get caught in that paradigm, forgetting what health and what power you have in health. You take it for granted all the time you have. And then when you're sick, you go, oh my God, I got to get all this stuff done. Sort of a joke, really, So taking that and understanding that and applying that knowledge is really important, because you realize I am healthy. I can do it now. I just have to work a little harder and a little longer, even though it sucks. But then before you know it, you're already there, and you go, wow, that was quick. Well, what do I do with it now? And then it's a whole other problem, Create problems for yourself that are good. That's what the attitude is. Don't create bad problems, create good problems. And you can do that quite easily, right? It just depends on what you want to do. If you want to neglect your health and take advantage of all your free time, well, then when you're sick, you're going to want to do it all. I don't know if you've ever noticed when you're sick in that state, you kind of work hard sometimes, work harder, ironically. And then when you're healthy, you sometimes get lazy. You ever notice that?
Yeah, I totally know what you're talking about.
I'm just
Yeah,
sort
so
of
I mean, no, that's okay. That's okay. It's very interesting. Like I said, it's an area that I've never really had any familiarity with. So if you want to shoot me a link back, an email or something like that, anything that you would think that would help me start off to start looking into this stuff, that would be like a primer. I'll look into it. I mean, I'm healthy right now, and I've got a little bit of capital to work with, so
well, I think if you want to take some risk, in my honest opinion, I would look at some American companies that are starting up in California. I'll give you a couple of names. You can check out C21 Investments. You can look at Planet
That's
13.
Charlie, or C as in the ocean.
C as in Charlie. C21 Investments. You can look at Planet 13. You can look at Hexo. They're about to list uplisted to NASDAQ, and they're sitting at $4. Now, listen, a lot of these companies are short-term pops, long-term gains. So, in other words, depending on the market and depending on your personality, if you're looking for something that's going to jump up right away, Hexo may be something you're interested in, which is HEXO. Might be something you're interested in, but if you're looking for long-term play and long-term growth, you may look at these early companies. They're, however, still high risk because they are pennies. They are starting out in a federal illegal market, but their frame of build out is because state-wise they're legal. It's just federally they're not. So they're undervalued right now, and they're building their network and framework. So if you understand where it's going, where the plant or the flower is going, you'll understand that it's actually going to be a multilateral industry. So in 5 years' time, by 2025 or 2023, it's looking at $100 billion industry. So you being I'm 41. How old are you?
46.
So in 10 years' time or 5 years' time and less, if you put 20 grand away in it, well, if you were high risk and you said this, and this is what I did to get to my position, is I said, okay, how long does it make me to make 10 grand? Well, it takes me this long. Okay. If I take 10 grand and I want to turn it into 100,000, how long does it take me? It takes me that long. Right. So I said to myself, well, what's better? I work 6 months to make 10 grand and invest it, or I work 20 years to make 100 grand. But in that 6 months that I invest that 10 grand, 5 years down the road, I can have 100. Do you understand the mentality?
Yeah.
The mentality is I'm going to burn the 10 grand, because first, when I say burn, I mean, you've done your due diligence. You've researched the company. You've seen the CEO. You've looked at you believe in it. You can't go buy something and take your money back and go, okay, long term, it doesn't work out that way. Long term is you believe in the company, you burn the money, it happens or it doesn't happen. There's no point in investing. That's the point. And the reason why is a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people put their 10 grand in something. First of all, don't take a stock tip from a neighbor. Don't research it yourself. Research the company, ends and over. Learn how to read a financial. Do that time. It's worth the energy and worth the effort long term, because the energy put in now saves you from working for 10 years, saves you the working for 20 years, because all you can do now is go make 10 grand and invest it. And then 6 months down the road, it could be worth 20 grand. You made just 10 grand. Take it. That's what you can do. But the stock market is essentially made for the middle class, or just that burgeoning middle class, to become successful. But the middle class has to understand they need to burn that money while they're healthy. I'm not saying you're not healthy. You're not healthy, you're not going to be burning the money. If you're healthy and you can go to work, you can burn the money, because that's what you do. And you go to work, you spent it, you're done. It's over. It's gone. I'm going back to work now to make that money I just spent. And that's how you have to invest. If you don't invest that way into burgeoning companies, you'll never break out of the rut you're in. you'll be stuck in the mental state that you need to squirrel like a nut, or nut like what am I saying?
Yeah. I got it. I
You
know what
know?
you mean. Yeah.
So, and the thing is this is part of the flat Earth. You know, when I was young, I had an inkling anyway that we were taught something wrong about money, which was to have fear of it and never going to have it. Listen, you'll always have it if you work. If you don't work, you won't have it. What do you expect? But if you go to work, you'll have it. Now, if you spend more than you work, well, what do you think is going to happen then? I mean, money is really simple that way. It treats you the way you treat it. So if you don't give a fuck about it and you work hard, you'll have lots of it. You really will. It's when you worry to end the tooth over it, you don't have any. And this is the ironic part about money. It's so abundant, it's around everywhere. You know, like I don't need a new car. I don't need a new TV. Some people do. Well, there you go. There's where your money is then. I don't need any of that. I can go, I have a half decent vehicle. You know, it's not the brand new, but it's got 100K on it. It's still newer. I didn't buy it brand new because I will never pay that price. I could never justify spending that money to offer. It's like looking at smoking. And when I quit smoking, I just couldn't provide that CEO that next paycheck for his next third house for his second mistress. I couldn't do it. That's the way I looked at it. I was supporting something that was taking away from my existence. I was supporting something that was taking away from my well-being. And I really saw it that way. It wasn't being bitter or being angry. It was going, well, look, you know, my daughter would benefit from that $15 more than that CEO would. So it's the same principle when it comes to money and spending for material gain. It's like what you're buying is enriching somebody else's life to a certain degree, especially if you buy it brand new. So, you know, a lot of people, you know, need materialism. Businesses need materialism, unfortunately. But if you want to be successful and you want to be healthy, you have to avoid it. You have to stop it, you know, and unfortunately, that's just not possible. I mean, it's, you know, I still find myself having urges to buy things for sure. But do I go and buy, you know, $180 shoes? No, you know, 30, $40. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, I do okay for myself. I work in film, you know, so, but people want to complain about money and, you know, they don't do enough about it. They don't respect it enough to realize that it's so abundant that if you just worked for this X amount of time and you invested this amount of time, you could actually enjoy more of it. But, you know, people aren't taught that. People are taught impulsive is better and now is better and bigger is better.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for them. You know, you want to give them a big hug and say, it's okay. You don't need to keep up with the Joneses, man. Did you know, instead of buying a box of crap dinner, let's go make some vegetables for you. You know, instead of treating your body like just a dump machine, let's go buy, you know, some purified water and some coconut or some cucumber. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's just the mentality of consumption that's got people all riled up. You know we have water burning vehicles. We know they exist. I would love to just be able to go buy one for 20 grand. Why couldn't I go buy it? It seems plausible and realistic for me to go buy a 20 grand worth water burning vehicle. It just doesn't seem implausible. It doesn't seem impossible. And it doesn't seem like it's overly complicated or expensive. I did make hydrogen when I was a kid by plugging electricity into water and lighting it on fire. I did the experiment myself. So now let's contain it in a gas chamber and expel it just like a propane or just like a gas stove. Or, I mean, a barbecue, you know what I mean? We have this simple technology to do these things, but.
So where are these other alternate car companies?
Well, in Honda, they have them. Or sorry, not Honda, but Japan, they have a water burning vehicle. Or maybe it is Toyota. I can't remember. But they have one. But the point is that it's not so complex. It really isn't. It's just the economy doesn't exist without oil. And the economy doesn't exist without materialism. So you remove oil and materialism, what do you have left? I mean, you have food, you have sex, you have drugs, but, the real economy here is materialism. It's the latest car, the latest purse, the latest suit, the latest house, the latest yacht. Do you know what I mean? Or it's the latest artist. It's always the this is what I mean. Like, this is what when you say we're not in the last days, I mean, I look at everything. I get anxiety going into Canadian Tire, dude. And I look at everything on the shelf and I go, this is not sustainable. This is just not sustainable. How is this sustainable?
Yeah, okay, so bringing it back. So, but that's got nothing to do with the last days, though. I mean, that's just the reality in which we live right now. So again,
Yeah, it's unsustainable.
yeah, but so go ahead and analyze your commercial product that way. That's fine. It has nothing to do with what I would label as a biblical idea of last days. That's a completely different genre altogether.
Well, no, if you see, the thing is, if you're going to isolate that one situation, well, then of course you can argue that. But I'm not asking you to
But
isolate
that's
this
what
one
it is.
situation. Hold on. No, it's not. It's only one correlation, and among a line of correlations that line up to this parallel pathway. And this is what the objective evidence tells me. I'm not being subjective when I look at this stuff. You could say it's biased, you could say whatever, but I'm still pointing out that Canadian Tire and the process of materialism is unsustainable. That's one factor. We know that it is. So what does that mean? Well, that doesn't mean anything, I suppose. But at the end of the day, if I'm applying it to other correlations of behaviors that are indicative of collapse, well, then we can see the correlations fit into a signal, or it's to me, it's signifying decadence, the most abundant decadence of culture that you can get when you walk into Canadian Tire. That you see that, you go, holy shit, this is a lot of stuff. And ironically, even though you can walk into Canadian Tire, you could still want one item that doesn't exist among hundreds of millions of items, which I find very comical, actually. I don't know if you ever walked into Canadian Tire and asked for a particular.
I'm in Maryland, so that would be never.
Well, yeah, Canadian Tire is a Canadian company, but you see what I mean? It's be like Tiger or Giant, or what do you call it? The Target.
Okay.
So I'm saying many correlations. You're trying to isolate this one scenario. Please don't do that. See, the end days are a correlation of events that combine into one story. That story is foretold by these prophecies coming true. Now, whether these are true prophecies or whether these interpreted stories or events or even considered to be prophecies is one other, the way we interpret the data. But ideally, there are correlations down a pathway that indicate that we are moving in a direction that takes away from family, takes away from gender, takes away from the environment, takes away from, when you've got the Pope himself going around and he's saying human beings coming and going and doing what they want is not good for the environment. You can go quote me, you can quote me that I'm saying this. This is what he's promoting. And he's going around city to city, tour to tour. It's in his book, So this to me is saying to me, hey, they want to do something about the world. They want to do something about the population. They want to do something about consumerism. They want to do something about the oceans. And so to me, 2019, when they just released the chemtrail, they're emitting officially in 2019, they're starting the program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the article that was just released, but they announced it in mainstream television. They are they're beginning the program in 2019, which is chemical spraying. Now, I correlate chemtrails and chem spraying to Bill Gates and his approach to vaccines, vaccinations, and population control. I've seen enough information that I can draw the correlation between vaccination control, chemtrailing, spraying, to the overall climate change of Earth, whether the climate itself is going to change to cause population control, or whether the chemicals are going to cause a particular vegetation alteration, And, the point is it takes time. It's like a gentleman in a nice suit that's fucking your wife behind your back. You're not going to find out he's fucking your wife till your wife has a baby and you figure your baby's half black. And you go, oh, fuck, I'm not half black. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're going to get slowly fucked by it before you realize what's going to come out of you is nothing that you put your money into. And that's basically what's going on, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, I still, just to bring it back to the fact that this is the end times debate, I would still talk about the fact that the end times the Bible is talking about is something completely different than what we would say in terms of interpreting what's happening in our world today. So, it just becomes an issue of taking it back to the major premise that the minor premises are based upon. And if you are going to make your major premise that the last days are simply a generic description of everybody's cultural representation at that particular moment. So say, for instance, 500 years ago, they were in the last days. 60 years after that, they were in the last days. And 30 years
they
after
weren't
that,
they weren't, though, and I'll tell you why there was no significance of the last days back then is because there was no one world currency. Do you know what I mean? There was no, at that point, there was still states and nationals, and there was no, do you know what I mean? There was no, we're not even at that stage yet to even confirm the last days. And one of the two things that we're waiting for, in my opinion, is the one world government, which they're stated in 12 years. You can confirm that and corroborate that, right? You've seen the article that came out talking about the United Nations wants a one world government in 12 years. Can you substantiate that claim that I'm making?
no, I'm not a news hound. That's not my
Okay. So anybody can substantiate that. That's there. So my referencing that is trying to indicate to you that this is biblical. This is the one thing that you can't, this is one thing that we're waiting for.
Okay.
So let's say, hold on.
Right
So
now,
now we have two scenarios. Let's play these two scenarios out. Let's talk about when we're back in biblical days and how we wouldn't have agreed on the 6-day creation and why that is. And then let's talk about now and the releasing of the information talking about one world government coming in 12 years, and they want that. So I just wanted to, we can probably discuss those two paradigms, those two particular topics, because they're recognizing and denying two things, right? That's what we're doing here. We're going to recognize something or deny something, right?
I'm trying to get us back to the common denominator. The common denominator that I think that we would have to try to substantiate is what the Bible means by last days.
Well, according to my scripture information, it would talking about cooling of the heart. It would talk about father against son, mother against daughter. It would talk about that. It would talk about destruction after destruction and rumors of wars and rumors of wars and whatever it says, wars upon wars and rumors of wars, something like that regard. It would talk about it would talk about the one world government coming into power.
Okay, stop. Right? Let's go with that one. Let's just for a moment there. So again, I'm not trying to stand toe to toe with you. I'm trying to understand that claim, because I don't see that claim being made anywhere in the Bible.
Which claim is that? The one world government?
The last one, yeah, the last one that you mentioned, the one world government, right?
So I have to go back. I'm on my phone right now, but there is a scripture regarding the control over everybody. And that to me is implying, yes, I'm making maybe an assumption or understanding as such. When I have the scripture handy, I could probably recite it clearly and it would make more sense. But to me, when I interpreted what the Bible says, is that there is one world power. It's not.
Okay, so
It's not going to be.
let me just ask you real quick, just out, just say, let's just ask this question: is it possible that at the moment of the author, you might find this particular reference? Is it possible that at that moment in his time period, that expression of a one world government was a reality at that moment?
Well, it wouldn't apply to nowadays. So if it's the Book of Revelation, it wouldn't apply to nowadays. So it would be something that would
Let's
still
stop
be.
right there. Right. Let's
Hold
stop
on,
right
hold on. Let me finish my thought though. So
Okay.
what you're saying is you're saying that at the time of creating that, he was looking at his surroundings, and this is what he deduced. I understand that that's what you're saying. But I'm saying is Revelation is a book about prophecy. And so in our generation, we're looking for prophecy to be fulfilled. That's the whole point of prophecy. When it's not fulfilled, we're waiting for it to be fulfilled to indicate Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 15, which says, if you know it's from God, the prophecy will become true. And if it's not from God, it is not with God, because it did not come true. So when we're looking at these things and it says a one world power to take over the rest of the world, we're still waiting for the one world power. It's not fulfilled its prophecy. So we should pick out one event that has been prophesied in the Bible that has either come true or is about to come true, or people have mistaken it come true, because we can look at many.
One of the difficulties in applying the passage that you're referring to in Deuteronomy 18 is the fact that in order for us to evaluate Jesus's prophecy of end times, he would have to still be alive. Okay, because one of the
well, Jesus says, I do not know the time of the end of the hour, only my Father does. So Jesus himself says that, and Jesus himself
he also said this generation will not pass away until all of these things have come to pass.
That's correct.
That's the broad general sweep of it, whereas his specific, I don't know the hour or minute. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to tell you the hour or minute, but I'm telling you, this generation, this group of people that are standing before me right now, before you die, these things will come to pass. So the thing about Deuteronomy 18 is you have to have the prophet around still in order to punish him for his false prophecy, right? So if the prophet says X, Y, and Z is going to happen, and 60 years pass and it doesn't happen, you stone the bastard. Well, they killed Jesus before anything could actually happen. So that kind of quashes that stipulation. You can't kill him again because he's already dead. He said all of these things. He said, the Son of Man will come in glory, and all of these things will come to pass in this generation. So we can't just simply take this generic idea of a one world government and ignore the fact that Jesus said this stuff's going to happen in the next 40 years, because that's what a biblical generation is. That is the way the Bible speaks. A generation is 40 years. So I mean, I hear what you're saying, but again, you and I are operating on two different paradigms, where I'm trying to say, okay, we have to take these things into consideration. So when I was saying earlier about, I think I said something to the effect of the your response was, well, if that's the case, then the prophecy has nothing to say to today. Right. Yeah, that's my point. Because the opposite of what most people suggest is that the prophecy New Testament makes is only relevant for us right now. So then you still have the same situation. You have the prophecy being irrelevant for a particular group of people. And up until this point, so there's a flat Earth Christian guy who's just nuts about the SpaceX rockets being the dragon of Revelation 13. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? If this prophecy of Revelation 13 isn't going to be fulfilled until SpaceX, then 150 years ago, the people didn't know what the hell the prophecy was about. No clue. 200 years, 300 years, 4, 5, 6, 1,000 years ago, those people had no clue, and it had nothing to do with them. We think the dragon is this. Sorry, it's SpaceX, yo. That's not going to happen until 2018, buddy.
Well, I
That's just
understand. I understand that thinking, and I agree with you there that I don't associate the Dragon X with the visions of Revelations. I haven't looked into far. I understand that the way I look at it is I look at it as the laws and values. I look at the actual individual person and personalities that are happening. What I see is an increase in mental disability. I see increase on drug abuse. I see increase in alcoholism. I see increase in murders. I see increase of divorces. I see increase of decrease of marriages and relationships. So I'm looking at the actual core of humanity. I don't look at the interpretation. Okay, so I look at the sun and moon for the Bible says that the sun and moon. Basically, the sun, moon, and stars will be signs in the heavens, right, near the last days. So I'm looking for those because that's what it says to look for. I don't look for man-made phenomenon. I don't look for man-made structures. It doesn't apply to me. Now, for me, one of the scriptures that in the Bible, it talks about earth being made for man and heaven being made for God. And that literally, if you come up to my skies, I'm going to swat you down. This is basically commands right from the Bible that completely instruct us what he will do. He's sitting right up there according to what the Bible says. You know what I mean? So I don't believe in that Revelation stuff. What I look for is narcissism, rise in narcissism. So, for instance, in schools right now, there are teachers that are holding. In Canada, there are teachers that are holding support classes for themselves because their students are so narcissistic. They have no empathy for anything, zero. And this is a sign that says, and to me, the Bible talks about a particular soul or personality being created near the time of the end, that this will be the display of the person. This will be the display of the character. So I'm looking for those signs, characteristic signs of the human. And so, yes, they existed in before times. And yes, there are people that existed like this throughout history. That's not the point. The point is the condensity, or I don't know if that's a word I just made up, the condensed amount, how it's becoming more and more condensed, like more and more people are gathering into this frequency, more and more people are coming to this plateau of violence and plateau of idolatry, a plateau of thievery, a plateau of lying. You know what I mean? So that's what I equate what the Bible teaches. Now, it's a moral book at the end of the day. It's supposed to indicate these things. It's supposed to teach you the difference between these things. It's supposed to teach you how to handle your anger, how to handle disappointment. So in that sense, I see all that stuff. But if you're not willing to deny that things are not headed in a good direction, well, then you aren't witnessing what it's going into. You're sort of delusional then, because it's not headed in a good direction. Over and over, we're repeatedly hounded upon and responsible for climate change. We are told that it's our fault, relentlessly. We're responsible. We don't need to do this. We're bad to the environment. When in reality, it's our corporations and it's our governments using the slave mentality, the master-slave scenario, to benefit themselves and then project that blame on us again so they can tax us even more. So it's a very vicious game that I see escalating farther and farther to a point where it is about to collapse, where it is about to be civil rivalry. It has to. How else do you get away from the tyranny that's before it?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your cultural analysis the only thing that I'm going to say, and I don't think that it's going to click, and that's okay, is don't use the Bible for that. The Bible has nothing to do with
But hold on. See, this is what you're lacking though, and your judgment, in my opinion, is I'm not going to the Bible for it. I'm ending up there. So what I'm saying to you is, and you have to really look at this as objectively as you can, is that I'm taking the witnessed material in life, the empirical data of life, and I'm gathering it all together. I wouldn't be a data guy if I didn't do all the data together and I didn't see a correlation. Now, what the correlation is the Bible is saying that things are going to go in this direction. So all the data that's happening in life in present moment is indicating that the Bible is telling the truth. In other words, it's going to that direction. Now, I left off that saying there is a group of people in this world that know that is written and they could be manifesting it. They could be pushing that narrative. They could be doing that stuff to the skies and doing that stuff to the food and doing that stuff to the vaccines because they want to do evil, because that is their nature. And I agree with that. You can see it more and more. Now, these group of people who can't stay quiet for long enough, they always somehow put it in the material that they do. Something, somehow, some way, they add something in their material that shows to the world that they're part of that group. That's part of their religion. That's what they have to do. So I see this as data that matches. And I don't start at the Bible. I didn't go to the Bible and look for the information. I'm looking at what the world is presenting me, and I'm going to the Bible with it. That's the weird part.
Yeah,
So,
I don't see the fact that you're avoiding the snare. So instead of saying, this is what I hear you saying. I hear you saying, I don't start with the Bible and then derive my principle of cultural analyses. I start with my cultural analyses and then go back to the Bible. My point is still,
I end up there. So it's like a trail. It's like if you were to peel back an onion, right, you're going to start at layers. And those layers are going to lead you to the different groups that have manipulated the layer of the onion, so to speak. It's like this whole world is blaming the Jew when in reality it's the Jesuit, right? To give you an example. Now, whether that's true or not, I'm being speculative and alleging that claim anyway. What I'm saying is a lot of people blame the Jew when in reality it could be the Jesuit. So the funny thing is that when you start out analyzing data and it leads you to a book that's older than the data, and the books itself describes events that match the data, you start to go, okay, well, that's a little coincidental. It's the same thing as measuring the sun and moon, and they're measuring the angular size, and they're the same distance, except you're told something else. Now, it's the same thing that you're doing, is that I'm analyzing the data, I'm measuring the same sizes, but then you're telling me something else, right? And that's how I approach this stuff.
yeah, I mean, I guess what I hear you saying, and I'm probably going to mix the metaphor a little bit, is that I hear you saying that you're programming an operating system to analyze particular algorithms, but you're telling the operating system what the algorithms are so that when it comes across what it interprets to be the same algorithm. But that is the mistake that I'm saying that we do with when we read about the end of time, or that, I mean, that word isn't even used in the Bible, the end of time, the end days, the last days. So if you, or if anybody else reads that and thinks that means the end of a world, and then you create an operating system to interpret the last days or the end days or the end of time.
So what I think it is you're talking about the end of the days and the end of the world. No, I'm talking about the end of the system, right? That's what the Bible says. It says that a system of things change, right? Essentially, that's what it says.
The Bible never uses that phrase. It never does. You're paraphrasing a category that the Bible doesn't use that language. So remember what we talked about with translation before, when you talked about the version and you talked about the NIV and the watered down version. I would say what you just said right now in your own words, that's not what the Bible says.
Well, I'm definitely paraphrasing. I agree with you, but the message of the destruction of the system, to me, is very clear there.
Okay,
Now,
stop. What system?
well, the system we're in, obviously, the system of
No,
banking, the system
no,
of oil, the
no.
system of roads and
I'm
highways and computers,
No.
and
I'm
well,
sorry,
well,
data. No, that's because that's not the system that Jesus was
well,
talking.
you can't imagine a world. Okay, listen. First of all, for you to think that there's going to be TV in the new system is absolutely absurd.
I know why you're bringing up TV, dude. If
Well,
that is-
because you have to think what I'm saying. You're not actually listening to what I'm saying. You're
like
leaping over bounds.
no,
So the
you're
system,
like a baller.
listen.
Like a
So the
baller
system.
trying to argue the heliocentric model, and I'm Nathan.
No,
Oak
no,
saying I am
no.
not. You are not going to beg
The
the question.
system. We're talking about the system. So let's look at what the system is. The
Ugh,
system is
you're
what?
begging the
Hold on.
question.
No, I'm not. The system is what? The system is what? The system is the current system we live in,
No.
which is fiat currency, which is
Begging
buying a house. Hold on. Listen to me. If a system, if we're talking about end days, this is what the message is. The message is the end of the system, not the world. Okay, not the destruction of the world. This is something we can agree on. It's not talking about the destruction of the world. It's talking about the end of the system. So, to me, the system is the political system, the financial system, the bank. The financial system, the investment system, the housing system, all the systems that have been created by the Freemasons. Because if you look in any town that's like in Canada, where I'm from. Any small city that you go to is a Freemason hall. And if you research the history of all the first buildings that were built and of all these communities were these small Freemason churches. Okay. This is my history in Canada. When I go to Manitoba and I look at all the history there, it's littered with Freemasonic stuff. When I go to Edmonton, Alberta, it's littered with Freemasonic stuff. When I go to Victoria and BC here, it's littered with Freemason stuff. So you can see the foundations and how they built. So you have to understand, if you're going to execute the end days plan, because you're part of a cult and you're part of a religion that wants the end days to come, you're going to live Lucifer's plan. Lucifer's plan is laid out in front of you. And the book that you can read is the Three World Wars in the book in the British Museum. It's laid out for you. Now, if we're living in, some people may call it a simulation, many people call it a delusion. But if it's predestined to be foretelling, and we're supposed to be living in a manifested, self-manifested world, in other words, you can manifest whatever life you want. You just have to do it. If we're living in this kind of world that we live in, well, then there is a manifestation of end days, and we're going to see it. And what we are seeing is a rise in volcano activity, a rise in earthquake activity, a rise in chemtrail spraying or weather anomalies. We see a rise in it of all. And if you're not willing to accept that empirical data, and then find out, and then not even go to the Bible, but just look at that empirical data first, know that there's something coming. They're warning us constantly of it. And and then you end up with the Bible, and the Bible discusses the same thing. Well, then you're going to kind of go, well, that's coincidental.
The Bible doesn't discuss the same thing, bro. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't.
It does, though. It does. I don't understand why you don't see that it doesn't.
I don't understand why you don't see what I'm saying, dude. Yeah, I mean, listen.
Well, I see this as what I see for scriptural based stuff. It talks about nation will rise against nation, right? It will talk about earthquake after earthquake. It will talk about war after war.
Stop.
Hold on, but hold on. The premise of these scriptures will indicate this main word, an increase, a rise. Do you know what I mean? So this is the thing that you have to realize. It's called an increase.
Okay,
or a rise.
Okay, listen to me. I'm going to give you a short little summary, okay? And I'm going to say we cannot take the qualification of nation shall rise up against nation apart from Jesus saying this generation. All these things will happen to this generation. So the qualification of nation rising up against nation falls within the time period of this generation. You cannot divorce those two qualifications. this generation and nation shall rise up against nation. You would have to completely ignore and white out and redefine one of those terms. So which one are you going to redefine? Are you going to redefine this generation, or are you going to redefine nation shall rise up against nation? Which one are you
Well,
gonna
this is what I'm going to say. Okay, so like I said, if we were just to analyze the empirical data in front of us, if we were to look at the political environment, if we were to look at the financial environment, if we were looking at the social environment, and even looking at the suicidal rate among things. Okay, first of all, here's something that. Hold on. Here's something. Hold on. Here's some. I will. I'll be pedantic about it, but I will answer your question. Just let me be pedantic. So what I'm saying is, so this conversation about political, environmental. There's one thing that I can't find in history that I've ever read about, and the only thing I can see in the Bible is that the Bible says that there were people in Sodom and Gomorrah days that were into strange creatures, into strange sex with creatures or something like that. It said. So I look now in history. I can't find anything in history talking about an LGBT, society. I can't see anywhere in culture talking about a type of society where they were teaching men to chop off their genitalia and become women, and vice versa for women. I don't see any of that in culture. I don't see that any in history. Hold on. There were eunuchs, absolutely, but they were eunuchs because when they were born, they were thought to be deformed. So because they were deformed, the nuts were chopped off so they couldn't procreate anymore. They were fear of poisoning the seed. So they were really superstitious of deformity. So that's why they were eunuchs. But needless to say, you can see that these conversations that we're having were never predisposed upon in previous cultures, at least in literate form. It wasn't as abundant as now. And so my point of my conversation is that when you ask me to talk about nation against nation and the other scripture you referred to, I'm looking as a whole empirically to notice that those scriptures are relevant now. Whether you want to say that they apply to this event or that event, they're applicable now. And that's all I'm looking at. I'm not looking at whether they're applicable 50 years ago or 100 years ago. I'm looking at the status and the climate now. And the funny thing is with the status and climate now as is, I combine the LGBT gender stuff. I combine the pronoun stuff. I combine the financial institution stuff. I do all these combinings. It's like deduction of the finest. Because if you look at all the empirical evidence around you, you and I both know things are fucked up. There's no negotiation around that. We both can agree on that. Now, whether that is biblical or not, that's what we're debating here. But at the end of the point is that it's evident and it's clear and it's empirical that we can see that it is that.
Okay, so I guess my question, try to figure out where you're at, is what does Jesus mean by this generation?
Well, he got rid of the Old Testament, right? He wrote new laws in the New Testament. That's what the New Testament is essentially about.
No, sorry. No.
What do you mean no? It's the New Testament.
I'm telling you what I mean by no. Here it is. The Old Testament was an acorn. The New Testament is the oak tree. It's not getting rid of. It's a development. He doesn't get rid of anything. It's a development.
It's a new covenant. It's a new responsibility. It's a new replacement, right?
The transformation. It's a maturity.
Right.
The way that
The way that I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the way that I put my podcasts is that the Old Testament is the yellow brick road, and the New Testament is the Emerald City. If you stay on,
I can understand the analogy for sure. Absolutely. The point is detracting from my statement, which is I'm looking at the current climate of all avenues of social structure, be it financial, social, whatever it is. It's very correlated to the warnings of what's in the Bible. And that's my opinion.
No,
I can't.
You were great. You had me at your social analysis. You had me there. you can't go back and say it's a fulfillment of what the Bible's talking about. It's
But here's the
not.
thing. Here's the thing. I can though, and I'm telling you why I am, and I have a very, very logical assessment to why I am.
Except
You're
for the fact
negate.
that
You're
premise-
hold on. You're negating the you're negating the logical assessment, and you're not refuting it with other than no. You're not refuting it with anything biblical. You're not refuting it with anything that because you can't deny it. That's my point. You cannot deny the current climate we are in are very similar to what's written in the Bible. Now, you want to take that literal or not? That's what we're talking about. We're debating it, but you cannot deny that the state we're in is very, very similar to the state the Bible describes near the end days of Noah. Now, do I agree with you? We're a year away? No way, we're not that close, in my opinion, because there's still the few things that I have to see if that my analysis is correct is obviously the Dome of the Rock stuff. I have to see that how that plays out with Israel and Palestine, because as soon as Israel takes over the Dome of the Rock, then to me that's one of the significations that it's coming, because Muslims will start a war, and that's the way it will happen. It will be a worldwide war with the Muslim religion. And that's indicative of what I read in the Third World War. I have a book. It's called I got to get the name of it. I'm bad at names. I confront these books, but I can't ever tell you the authors. So terrible at names. But anyway, I read about the Third World War, and it's interesting how. And even if you go look, if you read Ford, if you know who Ford is, right? And he wrote the book about the Jews there. Henry Ford Motor Company, he spent $1 million of his own money researching the Jew. He exposes the same thing that's in the same book about their same religion that's in the book in the British Museum, the Third World War book. Do you know what I'm talking about? Are you familiar with any of this stuff?
No.
I wish I had names, because I'm not 100%. I read this years ago, and I just, sometimes it's so far fetched that you just don't know what to.
Shoot me an email and let me know what it is.
Yeah, I'll do a video on it. I'll do more research again, and I'll put a little bit more concise video. I do these ADD videos because at the end of the day, people got no more than 5 minutes to a minute to understand something. So I try to compress and put these things into short videos.
No, that's so weird because, okay, let me ask you that. Are you in that category?
Well, no, I listen to Southern Israelite, dude, for hours on end.
Yeah, right, yeah. So
I read technical manuals and all that stuff. So no, I got a very good attention span, but I'm very selective in my attention span, for sure. If you want to call that ADD, whatever, but I don't think it's called ADD.
I mean, Southern Israelite is, the dude is just off. He's off. He's absolutely brilliant philosophically, but his biblical theology is just.
Well, here's the thing, bro. I mentioned to him about Noah and Adam living to be about 930 years of age, and he kind of drew a blank, which made me super curious and super fascinated. So I've got to go dig some shit up and have it, because I did have a conversation with him a couple of days ago on a site there, and there are things we agree on, there's things we disagree on, for sure. Just like yourself, I like talking to you, man. So I hope you're not offended by my approach and
no, not at all, man. No, not at all. Same back at you.
So I go back and I read stuff when I talk to you and stuff, and sometimes it reaffirms my belief system, and sometimes I go, oh fuck, I got to go back and relearn that again. So talking with him is good. But like I said, I'm doing a documentary. So this is it's the whole flat earth data thing. I've been doing a documentary for the last 2 years, like gathering tons of data, dude. You just be retarded from everything from Mark Sargent, beginning of everybody. I've been just logging everybody, and it's amazing how you cannot escape the human behavior in liars. They can't escape it. Hey, they always tell the truth eventually. They always expose, basically people who work for the government, they always expose themselves eventually, right? So it's quite interesting. I mean, it's still speculative at the end of the day. You're still alleging at the end of the day. You know,
Right, so let me ask you this question: is your documentary just raw data, no interpretation?
Ooh, it's very good. See, the problem with it is that when I first took it on, I was really ambitious. I was like, oh, fuck, I'll do this in 6 months. I'll gather all this shit together in 6 months. And then I realized that I can't do it in 6 months because A, I didn't know enough information myself. B, I didn't know enough math. I didn't know enough flight. I don't have enough hours. There's prerequisites I started to gather that I needed to achieve before I could understand the information I was releasing. And then what I found through the process is this interesting little graph of, how the AE map came out and then they debunked the EAE map and everybody, it's just really interesting how that got deflected because there's nothing wrong with the Gleason's map. As far as longitude, latitude goes and navigation on the map, there's nothing wrong with it, but it was just amazing how that evolved into it. It's really interesting. So I don't really know how to approach it. I'm like over inundated with material and how to tell the story, because the idea of the story is to show the controlled opposition, controlled how Mark Sargent, Patricia Steers came on site. And, you've got people, man, that what creeps me right out. Like the more I go into it, you get creeped out because you go like, holy fuck, there are government agencies that there's a group of people out here that actually sit here and debate flat Earth. And here's a list of them. Look at their rhetoric. Look how they repeat themselves. Look what they do. And it's like, you can see that and you can see it in there because you can't escape it, dude. If you're paid to do a job, you're going to be on script, and scripts are really easy to point out, especially when they're repetitive. And when you see all that stuff, you just don't know how to approach it because it's like the attention span of people are not going to be interested. It's like I'm doing a CSI investigation and there's a murder. You know what I mean? You're going to have to be in that murder CSI kind of mood to listen to the data. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, man, dude, it's scary as fuck. I'm not going to lie to you, man. Something's going on, scared and shit with the whole paradigm of flat Earth and with the government control stuff. It's like, a lot of people don't even realize how bad it is. Like just if it, the fact that it's true and how bad that is, it's quite scary. It can be quite scary.
I just have to say, I've been watching the chat the whole time, and all of a sudden I've got a thumbs down. Where the hell did that come from?
I don't know. You got no thumbs down on mine.
You must have heard us talking about flat Earth or something, but so what's your projection on when you're going to be ready to publish this?
Well, my initial goal was to attain my Lightwing ticket aircraft license, and then release that part of the documentary, and then expose a small section, like do small 5-minute sections on Look, man, I got to compete with a lot of. I'm not a genius. I'm not mathematically fucking nowhere near where I want to be. Do you know what I mean? So I have to. It would take me a little longer than normal to, how do you approach it? Number one, how do you tell a story that's scientifically solid without assumptions? At the same point, don't look like Patricia Spears when you're interviewed by a mainstream article where everything you say is literally making fun of the flat earther, but because the flat earther's been so ridiculed that every word that she says is a relief to the flat earther because it seems like it's fair justice, when in reality it's not, because nothing is based on scientific rebuttal. It's based on conjecture and assumption. And so when you see somebody in the mainstream continuously do that, you go, holy fuck, really? Like, we've been working this hard to get to this level, and we have somebody like that, and we feel like a breath of fresh air. Get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? To me, it was just a big slap in the face and a big another sign of controlled opposition. And it scared the shit out of me, to be honest. Because it's like, when you kind of get into the paradigm of your world, and
because I can't visualize what you're saying. Can you give me an example of what you're saying?
So she had an interview, the Patricia Steers interview, that was mainstream, that kind of painted a nice picture. She had a nice speech. She was like, well, we're not all crazy. We're actually very smart. We're actually very smart people. We're hardworking, and we just don't believe, the space pictures were fake. And it was just very, very bone dry, straightforward answers that just lended to the idea that they had no scientific substance to the reasoning behind them. And when you portray a picture like that in such a 30-second, minute to minute and a half clip mainstream, it's just reinforcing the retardation of the flat earther mentality. So when I see it, I got fearful. I was like, holy fuck, it's true. It just reinforced that flat earth was so true that mainstream had to go to that level where they had to paint it in a homogenized way that at least allowed the person who was a flat earther accept the belief system as like, okay, well, it wasn't such a bad portrayal, but it excluded any of the hard-hitting evidence that we've gone so hard, that we dug up, right? So it's just a fluff piece, and it's like designed to bury it. You know what I mean? Bury the fucking ice cream cone, dude. It's like, let's go for a walk and have an ice cream cone and talk about a major thing that changes the whole paradigm of existence, but we're just gonna have an ice cream cone anyway. I don't know if that's a bad analogy, but I'm just saying it's just a lot of lipstick, man. Lip service to the.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see for myself. I mean, everybody's different, right? So for me, what you described, I just don't get it. I'm not seeing it. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not
About Patricia Steers, you mean?
Yeah, because I've seen those interviews. As far as I know, I think that I've seen.
So you don't think it's homogenized? You don't think it was just kind of like brushed over, very simplistic, like it was, you didn't feel like a breath of fresh air when you were like, oh my God. The comments were like, finally, a truthful representation of flat earth. And I was like, no, it's not. It's the same thing as the globe do, which is I saw a shadow on the moon, therefore the earth is round. It's the same thing. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, so you have to realize if somebody's going to be at that level with that media attention, you want to hit them if it was real and genuine. It's like the guy that was interviewed.
Let me just
the guy that was
to be specific. So if you're saying that it was just like a globe head who says, I saw the shadow on the moon, what was it that she said that was that equivalent?
Everything she said about the statements, everything she said about flat earth, about we don't believe the pictures from space are real. They're just not real. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. We just see the pictures. We don't think they're real. So there's no substance to the substance to the claim. It's just I'm stating the claim. That's it.
Here's what I hear you saying in general. I hear you saying something along the lines like it was just a cookie cutter response of bullet point, and for you, that was a tell.
For me, it's script, and she's not privy to that script. That's she didn't write that script. That script you can hear through other.
How do you know that? How do and all I'm doing is asking you questions. That's all I'm asking.
I think the thing is I work in film for 10 years, right? Professionally for the last 7, and when things are homogenized and packaged and put together, there's a formula to it. And flat earth that's the best thing about flat earth. It's just not a formula. It's basically exposing the formula is what it's doing. And what it's supposed to do is supposed to be a form of hard-hitting journalism. It's supposed to be the exposition on, to me, what flat earth represents is not just necessarily flat earth. It's actually the exposure of, it's opening up everything that we've been told, right? Basically, it just seemed really homogenized and it seemed very controlled. It was like, look, these are your set of questions we're going to ask you. Let me go home and write my set of responses. And that's what it was. And so she went home and wrote her set of responses, and they included no science. They just included globe head responses, just a flat earth interpretation of it.
I don't know. That's exactly where I thought you were going to go with that. And I don't know. I don't have any red flags on that. But
you got to think too. She's Patrick, right? So
yeah, but see, that's not anything. Well, okay, stop. Let's say Super Rats never said anything like that. Would you be in that position?
Here's what the funny thing is I had no idea even Super Rats even talked about this. This is my own assessment from prior conversation before Super Rats. But anyway, needless to say, that's a whole other conversation. What I'm indicating here is same position as Southern Israelite in this sense, is that to me, flat earth is actually a very big separation and divide from pagans and from other Kabbalists and other religious people, right? You understand, right? So if you were to look at what flat earth represents biblically, to me anyway, and to people like Southern Israelite, it's actually reiterating law into human existence again biblically, in a sense that you may have somebody who has moral practices that don't fit in with biblical scripture. So therefore, they may be pagans and believe the earth is flat. So when you have that situation before you, which I think is a lot, what's happening a lot is you have a lot of Satanists who believe that the earth is flat. It's sort of like this weird conundrum, because the only place that it's written, in my opinion, we disagree with this, the only place that's written biblically that the earth is spread out with a dome over top is the Bible. You know what I mean? It's the only material known in human existence that describes the earth as a flat dome. Now, you and I disagree with that, but to me, there's scriptures that talks about, inscribing a circle into the deep. He literally inscribes a circle into the deep. So, if that isn't the AE map, I don't know what description that is. And Job talks about a pressed seal. I don't know if that sounds like the AE map again. So, you know what I mean? So when you look at all this information, I've been collecting data, man. There's like even stuff on her website, even Mark Sargent, same thing. And ironically, their names themselves, Patricia Steer, the name itself, Mark Sargent. Look at the names. The Mark is to come on and to mark something, and Sargent is to take command and be the lower rank and to move it forward. And then Patricia Steer is just to steer it into direction. Like, you can look at the names themselves. They're mainstream, and they made it mainstream very, very big, very, very quickly.
What does Skiba mean? You know what I mean?
I haven't done Rob Skiba yet. And you know what's funny? I don't trust nobody. Okay. This is what you have to understand. I'm not an any trainer. I don't even trust. I even break Southern Niddleites. I had a debate with him. I broke his balls a little bit about some of his belief systems. So I don't trust nobody. Okay. I'm still open when it comes to many things. I do have firm beliefs in certain things, absolutely, based on my empirical researches that I've done and the data that I've gathered. But I definitely question even Skiba. I've questioned definitely him as controlled opposition for sure. I know David Icke is. I know David Icke is controlled opposition 100%. I don't know if you know who he is, but to me, he is 100%. I know Alex Jones is. He's 100% controlled opposition. So, there are people put in place to direct and guide. And, look, man, we're in a world of AI. AI is going to be telling a lot of things. Hopefully, it'll be telling a lot of people a lot more truth than falsities. So maybe it'll be a good thing.
All right. Well, we've been at it for 2 hours, and so I'm going to wrap up our session. And first of all, give you a lot of props. Thanks so much for showing up and having a conversation with me. I sent you an email with an episode that I've done on some of the stuff that we talked about. So if you want to just give that a listen, maybe we can follow up
Definitely.
later on.
I've got an airplane flight tomorrow morning heading to Jamaica, Christmas Day. And I'm gonna enjoy there. So you know what? I'll download your thing and I'll listen to it.
Yeah. I don't think it's very long, But the other issue is that if you wouldn't mind shooting me the reference that you think the Bible says anything about a dome, because I'm really interested in that. Again, in my 25 plus years, I don't have a recollection of that kind of language. So I'm interested that if you want to just, when you get a chance, just shoot that to me whenever you can.
All right, bro. Have a good evening. Thanks for the chat. Always a pleasure.
You too. Happy holidays, brother.
Happy holidays. Bye.
All right. Talk to you. All right. There's 2 other people I think that were watching. Still sitting there. So if you want to just say hi in the chat real quick, I'd appreciate that, just to know who you are. So if you want to look over to your right on the screen, there's a chat box for you to say something. There's 5 now. Now there's 3 more people. This is Travis Finley with Rethinking Revelation. This has been my second attempt to have a live stream on the discussion of the end times. What does the Bible mean by the end of the age, last days, end of days? You are free to join the panel to discuss your views on the shape of the Bible's last days language. So keep your ears out. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscription, hit that bell notification as well. Also, if you're in here, and I see that you're in here because it says that there's 5 watching now, I'm me. There are 4 others out there, possibly, unless Flat Earth Data hasn't signed off yet. There are 3 others out there. Please hit that thumbs up and hit that bell notification so that you can be kept up to date with what we're doing here with Rethinking Revelation. Rethinking Revelation is a Christian podcast where we discuss the interpretation of the Christian scriptures from Genesis to Revelation, and we challenge you to rethink what you're reading. Learn to squint, learn to read between the lines, because there is a difference between what the Bible says and what the Bible means by what it says. I'm your host, Travis Finley. Until next time.